Hey there, everybody. It's your girl Barbie J here with the recap and review of Powerbook 3, Raising Kanan, Season 3, Episode 8, Reckonings. And the synopsis reads: as a despondent Lou becomes a liability for the family, Rock and Marvin work to get the new heroin operation up and running amidst new competition from Kanan and Ronnie. And honey, this was a good one. And I'm sure most of you will agree with me. But before we get started, if you have not subscribed to my channel as of yet, please take a moment right now and hit that subscribe button. Then hit the notification bell and select all, and it'll let you know every time I upload any new content to this channel. Then I ask that you smash that like button, write a comment, and join the conversation. And then share the video, because sharing is caring. So this episode start off with Rock chilling in her living room smoking a cigarette, and mother freaking Lou show up to her house drunk, talking about, I'm here, Rock. Who you want me to kill next? I'm here. It's nighttime. He yelling in her new neighborhood. Drunk. Who next? We killers. All of this stuff. And she's like, come on in here, boy. She said, my neighbors don't need to hear this. No, bitch. They need to know who we are. We are straight killers, yo. All of this stuff. I said, oh my God. Lou is losing his damn mind. They're going to have to kill Lou. I'm sorry. Lou is going down. So Rock gets him in the bed and she calls Marvin. And Marvin comes over and Lou is knocked out. And she's like, yo, we got to do something with him. We got to get a hold on this man. And he's like, Lou just needs help. He needs our help. And she was like, nah, this motherfucker, da 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 da. You know, Rock going on in. And she blaming him like he's responsible. This ain't on her. It's on him. She asked him, do he like what he see when he looks in the mirror? And he's like, I'm starting to. She said, because I'm the only one seeming like I'm always looking in the mirror myself. She said, but Lou don't like what he see when he look in the mirror, and that's why he falling apart. Then she told him he need to find out what Kanan's doing, because he's messing with Snaps and Pops and stuff, and Ronnie. Because he said, I know Kanan was doing a little reefer. She said, Ronnie ain't messing with no reefer. Ronnie messing with some big stuff, and you got to find out what it is. But he was shocked when he found out that he's messing with Snaps and Pops. I tell you that much. So he said, okay, he'll find out whatever he can. She said, I got Quan on my back, and Quan about some ish that's going on, so I have to go and deal with him now. And she said she called Ma to come and babysit for him to make sure he don't go out and be losing his mind, starting no trouble. So that was that. When Mom's come over, Mom's sitting there talking about, you know, she said, don't make sure he don't go out and this and that. Mother put her hand out for money. She gave her some money and said, here, this for babysitting your son. I was like, damn, Mom's is a trip. Hand always out. Hand always out. And even when Lou woke up, she was like, what are you doing? Rock said you can't go. She said, here, I made you something to eat. The toast was all burnt up. The eggs looked disgusting or whatever. And Lou didn't even want to eat it. And then she didn't even want to eat it after Lou left and said he didn't want it. He just went out. She said, Rock said you're not supposed to leave. And he went. She said, well, I'll tell her I tried to stop you. She didn't even care. All she got is money from them. And then she said something about cleaning up, always having to clean up their mess and stuff, like I had to clean up the house. And I remember Rock said, I don't recall you ever cleaning, Ma. I said, oh, snap. That was a low blow. But anyway, then we got this scene where Kanan and Snap and Pops and Ronnie out at some restaurant or something, and they trying to get him to drink. And he said, I'm good. And he put the drink back. It was a shot. And they said, yeah, DEFCON didn't drink either. And Pops was like, yeah, he didn't even mess around with women too much, but your moms, you know, and Kanan just sitting there because he know DEFCON ain't his daddy. But they said, you know, you like DEFCON. He said, but your DEFCON wasn't formidable. And Ronnie was like, he was feared. And Snap Pops, or whatever her name is, said he was respected. You know, and they said, which one you want to be, feared or respected? And he said, that's like a trick question, you know, because if you feared, then they respect you. And if they respect you, then they fear you. I was like, it is not the same, sweetie pie. But okay, you go with that. So then when they was leaving, Snaps, or I don't know what the female's name is, she was asking Ronnie if he ever been with a serious girl or had a girlfriend. He said, yeah. She said, what's his name? He said, I don't know. She said, how the hell you had a serious girlfriend and you don't know her name? He said, he said, look, you asked me did I ever have a regular steady biatch. He said, I did. You didn't ask me to remember her name. I'm sorry. So Snaps asked Kanan if his Rock knows he effing with this work. And Kanan's like, I don't know and I really don't care. So he tells Kanan that Rock is competition and that she's good at this. He said, I'm good at this too. And Snaps just looked at him and got in his car. So now we have Marvin. He's spying on Kanan and Ronnie. Ronnie's standing there like he's security. Kanan's giving the different packages to the different delivery guys. You know, when they finish, they go inside the building and the last guy pulls off and Marvin decides to follow that last guy to wherever location he went. So he watched the guy go in, knock on the door, go inside, and when he came out, he had this big knapsack on him. So when he came out, Marvin snatched him and threw him to the ground and wanted to see what was in the knapsack. And the guy didn't want to tell him anything, so he just snatched it off his back and looked in it. He said, all I wanted to know is what you were moving. And he said, look, I only do the deliveries. And he said, is that what y'all delivering? You messing with the heroin? He said, you know what? This will get you 1 to 9. And the guy just walked away. And Marvin gave him the bag back and bounced. So now we see Rock meeting with this Chinese guy named Terry, and he's sitting there with his brother David, who's a drug addict or something. But this is the same Chinese guy from last week's episode. That was, I said he was a little racist, it seemed, because Rock was asking questions, and he said, we only do business with Chinese restaurants. She said, what? I don't look like I could run a Chinese restaurant, you know? But anyway, she's negotiating a deal with him. His brother keeps chiming in, oh, this is great. This can help and save us from laying off folks. And, oh, that's okay because our trucks are always empty, so space would not be a problem. And he's just like saying all this stuff. And he's in agreement. But Terry wants to know what deal that Hong got. And she said, Hong's deal is not your deal. He said, well, I won Hong's deal. And his brother's like, we don't have to be so greedy, you know? This is a great opportunity. This is great. He's doing all this talking. And he's like, my brother does not speak for me, you know? He's like, we have 50%. I own just as much of this business as you do. I'm going to go tell Ma. And he was like, had a temper tantrum. He said, we don't need your temper tantrums right now. And he storms out. And Rock said, it looks like you're going to be in trouble with your mother. He said, my mother's been dead for 10 years. He goes to a gypsy and gives him its money. And she tells him she could talk to her through the dead. And Rock is like, well, my offer still stands. That's what it is. You get back to me. And Terry said, look, I've made my decision. I want Hong's deal. And she walked out. But later on in the episode, we see Marvin following him. And I was like, why is Marvin trailing this dude? And he's trailing him and he sees him get in a car with this female and they kissing and making out. And then they drive somewhere like to a hotel or something. And they're in bed and she's going down on him. And you see this flasher light, click, 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 click. And I'm like, what's got Marvin sitting in the corner in the chair? He said, oh, don't mind me. Keep it going. And he's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? He said, no, that's okay. So the girl jumped up and put her clothes on and Marvin gave her money. He said, what, you working with him? She said, yeah, he pays more. So basically Marvin told him, my sister made a deal with you and that's the deal we're sticking with. He said, so if I don't go with that deal and don't want to prove it, then you'll tell my wife. He said, oh, no, I'm not going to tell your wife. I'm going to show your wife. I said, oh, snap. So he said, next time, stop being so cheap and pay these young girls more money, okay? So now over at the studio with Butter, they are singing and doing their steps and everything. And they finished rehearsing and Juke is doing her thing, honey. And she looked like she's in the middle and it looks good with the two other ones are shorter than her. But anyway, the lady who's in charge, she said, what do you think to the girl, I guess the lady next door who was, I guess, teaching the dance steps. And she said, you think we need to do it again? She said, yeah. And she said, what do y'all think? So nobody said anything. Crystal didn't say nothing. Aisha didn't say nothing. And Juke said, we good. Because if we go again, we only going to mess up and it's going to make you angry. And she said, you know what, Jukebox? You right. And you also Butter's lead. I said, oh, go ahead, Juke. And Crystal was mad, like, just because she said that? And she said, because she knows when to say something and when not, which is something you could stand to learn, Crystal. I said, oh, snap. Crystal was pissed. And she was so pissed that she stormed out of there and got her coat and left. And when Jukebox and Aisha leave out of the building, they see Crystal across the street with Kanan tugging him down and so they could see it. And Jukebox wanted to go over there and say something, but Aisha said, nope, it's not even worth it. She said, why should I don't have to be jealous because I got you, and something like that. And Crystal did it in their face and was like, She did it on purpose, and they walked around the corner. But now, mind you, the night before this rehearsal, Aisha and Jukebox had a little sleepover, I guess. I guess they were at Jukebox house, and they were in the bed with their pajamas on and stuff. And Aisha saw the picture of Jukebox with Nicole. So she went and looked at it and said, she's pretty. This your ex-girlfriend? She said, yeah. She said, so you like white girls? She said, no, I like Nicole. And she said, well, why did y'all break up? And she said, we didn't break up. She died. And she said, oh, I'm sorry. And she said, what are you sorry for? It's not your fault. So Aisha decided to explain to her why people say they're sorry when you lose a loved one. And she said, thanks for telling me. And Jukebox said, I guess I just wanted you to know. So now we see Captain Burke. So next we see Captain Burke. He's waiting for Mr. Bingham to come home. And he asks him, can he come in to talk to him? And honey, y'all, he's in Harlem. I know those Harlem streets when I see him, baby. Anyway, he asks us to come up in there. Mr. Bingham is like, I don't know what we really have to talk about. And he said, we both lost our daughters, and it's just for father to father. That's what he said. But when he gets in there, he starts talking about his daughter and killing herself and all of this stuff. And Mr. Bingham was talking about something, telling him what he knew. And then he said, but then when, the other police officer came, and he's like, who was the other police officer? He said, he asked me not to tell, or something like that. And immediately Captain Burke said, Malcolm Howard. But Mr. Bingham didn't make any change in his expression. He just stayed looking the same. So now we have Rock meeting with Quan, and he's really upset. So he threw some drugs down on the desk and told Rock that one of his people brought this drugs out in Queens, and it was delivered to him by a courier. He said, you got competition, and me and my Italian partners can't be seen as weak, so we need you to make an example out of them. So going forward, nobody else will do the same thing. And she's looking at the package, and it says Southside Queens on it. And she's just like thinking, who can it be? And then she got up and left and said, it'll be handled. So she's going to take care of it. And she sure did at the end. Oof. So now we have Lou in that studio, and he's listening to Fame's tape, and he takes the cassette out, put it in a case. And Shirley came in there and said, well, look who the cat drug in, and how's it going? And he said, here, give this to Famous when he comes in. She's like, why can't you give it to him? He said, I gotta go. She said, nothing's as bad as it always seemed. He said, no, sometimes it's worse. And he walked out. So later on that day, Famous came in, and he said, where's Lou? And she said, oh, he's not here right now. She said, you're Famous, right? He said, yeah. She said, here, he left this for you. She's like, your music is really good. She said, I'm a fan of yours. And he's like, thanks. So he's like, when he's going to come back? And she said, oh, it's probably going to be a while. He said, well, what's a while? She said, I don't know. It could be days. It could be weeks. So he's like, oh, man. And so he started to walk out and then turned around and said, you think I could borrow the studio to lay down tracks? And she said, it's not my equipment to be loaning out, but I'm sure Lou wouldn't mind, or something like that, she said. And she said, but nothing in this world is free. She said, we're going to make a fair trade right now. She said, I'll let you keep using the studio, and you have to help me around here. He's like, doing what? She said, cleaning, washing dishes, moving stuff around. And he's like, word? And she's like, does that mean you agree? He said, you bet, or something like that. And they shook on it. Now, before Famous got there, it seems that Miss Shirley had called Marvin to let him know what was going on with Lou. And Marvin was saying, thanks for letting me know. And then Rock came in and threw the drugs, the Southside stuff down on the table and said, somebody's moving in on us and we got to move them the F out. And he said, yo, that's Kanan and Ronnie and them stuff. She's like, what? So now she's pissed because the person she got to get rid of is her damn son. And she's like, Quan is on her behind to make an example of these people. She don't know what she gonna do, and she's trying to figure out in her head. And he's letting them know, her know that Lou is not doing good. And the lady from the club called, and he needs our help. She was like, he need to learn how to shut the F up. And she said, I told Mom not to let him get out of the house. And he said, you know, Mom was never good with taking instructions from anybody. And so she's saying, we got to do this and we got to do that. He said, look, I think Lou should be the priority. He needs us. And she said, Lou is a distraction, and that's your problem. You worry about every other MFer except yourself. Don't you like getting paid? Okay, then. Help me help you, Igga. You know, so I was like, uh-oh. And poor Marvin, he was not good with that. He was like, Lou needs us. But he knew Rock wasn't trying to hear it, you know. In the meantime, we got this quick scene with Kanan and Crystal in bed together, and they smoking weed, and she's asking him, does his cousin ever ask about her? And he said, me and Juke not really talking right now. She said, well, you know, me and her, we not friends or anything like that. I said, she a little sneaky little heifer. And while they talking and somebody knocks at the door, he goes and says, who's that? He gets to the door with his gun and realizes it's the social worker out there. So he put the gun under the couch. And then she comes in here saying, you're making my job a little harder. I told you had to be living at home. I told you the rules, you know, that's stopping you from doing a stint in a boy's home. So your mother said you're not coming home these days. He said, look, I still live there. It's just that I spend time here as well sometimes. So she walks into the apartment and sees the girl sitting there. And she's like, look, Kanan, you got 24 hours to return home. If you don't return home, the next time you see me, you will be with a police officer to arrest you. Understood? And he nods his head. And Crystal's like, what was that? He said, that's my mother's BS. I said, oh boy. So Kanan decides to tell Ronnie about her. And they're in the car and they sitting out there waiting for the social worker to come out. And when she comes out the building, Ronnie goes over there and says something to her. And the social worker gets scared and runs like over to her car, something like that. And he gets back in his car and says, she won't be bothering you anymore. And Kanan looking like he's surprised and stuff, but you did this on purpose. You knew that was going to happen. So now we had this scene with Pops and Snaps. And Rock's coming to visit them. And she's like, I need y'all to stay away from my son. He just trying to show up for his mama. He ain't about that work. And they ain't trying to hear it. They was like, we're not working with him. He's an associate of an associate or something like that, how they put it. But, you know, I guess they're saying they're really dealing with Ronnie. And Ronnie's dealing with Kanan. And, you know, they doing all this talking about, oh, we understand the complicated life of a parent and a child and all that. I was like, boy, y'all better stop. So they laid into her about Stefano and who she's working with and all of this stuff and saying how they got power and they don't answer to her or anything like that. And she listened, and then she got up and said, you got no business effing with my son. Stay away from him. And then she walked away. And then Pops asked Snap, is our shit with Ronnie worth all of this? And he said, this ish stopped being about Ronnie the moment she came strolling in here telling us what to do. This ish is about us now. But the truth is, that's her son. If a mother wants you to stay away from the son, you should respect that and not take it personally. Because that's what they doing, taking it personally when she's like, this is my child, you know? And he is a child. He's like 15, 16. Come on, y'all. Have some respect. Talking about, I'm a firm believer in it takes a village to raise a kid. Give me a break, Snaps. But now we see this sad scene with Lou. Man, this really touched me because Lou is drunk. He's outside standing against a wall. He got a bottle in one hand. He's pissing, you know, against the wall in a little like kind of alley or something. These two white dudes walk up and say, oh, he's drunk. Let's go over there. So they go over there with a knife and tell him to give over his wallet and his watch. And he was like, what? You gonna stab me or something? He said, go ahead, do it. Do it. They like, what? Go ahead. Mother effers, y'all gonna kill me, do it. He's like, what, you need some mother effing inspiration? And he pulls out a gun and started popping cap, pop, pop, pop. They would start running. They was getting out of there. See, they thought they had an easy mark, but they didn't, boy. But it was sad because he fell over drunk with the gun still in his hand, shooting it, you know. Man, Lou really does need help. And Marvin was right. But Rock was right, too. It's just that it's just hard. It's a hard thing, man. You got to try to either make money or check on your sibling, you know. Now, this next scene right here, although I wasn't happy about it, I was kind of glad about the way it ended. We got Jukebox standing on a Parson Boulevard train station waiting for the E train to go to rehearsal, and these two females roll up on her and say, "You Jukebox, right?" And she's like, "Who the hell are y'all?" And they punched her in the face and they started kicking her butt, and she started fighting back. I mean, Juke told they behinds up, and she did not play. And people were standing around, nobody helped. A train pulled in, people were running off the platform, off the train, out of the way. And the next thing you know, after she had them both down, one of them got up and had a knife and was pointing at her, and it switched. It went off and didn't show what happened after that. But then it switched over to them at the rehearsal place, and the two girls are there, Aisha and Crystal, and they're like, "Where's Jukebox?" She said, "We're going to give her 10 more minutes." And Crystal said, "I can step in for Jukebox until she gets here. You know, I know her verses and all her steps." And Aisha's like, "I bet you do." I said, "Yeah, Aisha ain't got no love for her because she know fast ass Crystal is with Kanan now, and that's what she was trying to do, get with him in the first place." So at this moment, Jukebox busted in the door and says, "Sorry, the train was late." And she's hurried up. The lady was like, "I don't want to hear no excuses." And then she looked at Jukebox and said, "What the hell happened to you?" She said, "I tripped and fell," or something like that. And this lady looks at her like she knows something else went down. So she told her to take her place, and Jukebox walked over to Crystal and said, "Your punk ass friends went home with some lumps, and they ain't shit, and neither are you." But what I liked about that scene is Jukebox was smiling as she said it to her. And Aisha said, "Are you okay?" And she said, "I'm great." And Crystal was standing there looking like an idiot. So I'm assuming Crystal thought she could get away with that because Kanan and Juke are not speaking, but that's still his family. And she probably thinks she wouldn't get no backlash from Kanan if she did that, if Juke goes back and tell. But I probably would have told the director, "Well, I got jumped by these two girls in the subway saying you're not going to make it at rehearsal today. So I could only assume that Crystal sent her friends to jump me." I would have put it on her so she got kicked out of the damn group. That's what I would have done. So now we got this quick scene with Rock going to see Pernessa, and she's like, "Ronnie's messing with my child, and I want to know where they're getting the work from." She said, "I don't know." And she said, "I understand that you're trying to protect your son, but I'm trying to protect mine. And the best way I could do that is not to think about Ronnie and hope he's not thinking about me." She said, "Because I want to be far away from him." She said, "He got his girl now, and they was up in my house and getting into something, and it was nasty. I don't know if that's they official or not, but that's what I saw." And Rock was like, "Ronnie got a girl?" She said, "Yeah, that biatch from the bodega. It was nasty." And so Rock said, "How long that been going on?" And that's when Panessa looked kind of strange, like she looked shook. And she said, "You know what? I don't have anything else to say to you. Sorry." And I was wondering why that question shook her so. If anybody knows why, put it down in the comment section because I didn't understand it really. So now we have Rock going to see Joaquin, letting him know that Juliana is doing some business on the side without him. And he's like, "How do I know it's true?" She said, "Think about it. I bet you she's taking phone calls. Don't want you to hear. She's buying nicer things and everything." And he's like, "I hated her husband, Gabriel, but once he died, Juliana changed." And Rock said she didn't change. That's just who she really was anyway. She just needed her man out of the way so she could show her real self. So Joaquin was like, "I have to confirm with my people first about what you're saying, before I give you my approval." She said, "Do what you got to do, but I'm going to do what I have to do." And I was all right now, Rock. Do what you got to do, girl. So now we have a quick scene with Jukebox, who he calls Private Thomas, going to see Sergeant Healy. And she's asking him, what if she wants to back out? And he was like, "You signed a contract, Duke." And he said, like most things, it's harder to get out of it than to get in. He said, "You made a promise to the United States of America, Laverne, and I know you don't want to break that promise to your country." She said, "My country broke a whole lot of promises to me." And I was like, "Tell him, girl." And he's like, "They promised you freedom and that's what you got." She was like, "Whatever." And she got up and bounced. So now we have this very interesting scene with Gerald and Marvin. And they're in like a diner, and his daughters are there, and they're eating food and stuff and coloring. And he's asking Marvin questions because he's going to do this article on Jukebox. But he's asking about Bulletproof Records and how one of Jukebox songs was recorded on that label, which is partially owned by your family. And Marvin's like, "Just move on. You don't need to talk about that." He said, "But that's part of her story." Then he said, "Did you know about the alleged connection between Bulletproof Records and the mafia?" And Marvin said, "Where'd you hear that?" And he said, "Well, I have a friend on the NYPD who, told me there might be a relationship there." And Marvin said, "Are you talking about me to the police? Are you out of your damn mind?" And Gerald was looking at him. He said, "You told me you write about entertainment and arts. It doesn't have anything to do with the police." And he said, "Well, just in my research on jukebox, I came and dug in and got some stuff about the record label and the attack on your family." And Marvin was pissed. He picked up a butter knife and was digging it into the table while Gerald was trying to explain that the pieces about her family and her experiences are important background information. He said, "I'm just doing my job, Marvin." He said, "Them questions ain't your job." And Marvin shook his head. He was pissed, and Gerald was looking at him. And then Marvin looked over at Gerald's daughter, who was coloring, and said, "Honey, you supposed to stay in between the lines. You all over the place, just like your daddy." And Gerald was looking at him, looking all busted up. So now it's later that night, and Gerald's at home playing Candyland with his daughters when a car pulls up in his driveway and flashes their headlights. So Gerald goes out there and gets into the car, and it's those FBI agents. I was like, "Oh my goodness." And they said, "Tell me something good about Marvin Thomas, Gerald. Tell us something that'll help our investigation, or you're going to be playing board games with your kids in Sing Sing." I said, "Oh, man, Gerald, you low down dirty dog." And he was looking scared as shit. I'll tell you that much. And then we see this real quick scene with Lou sitting in his car drinking and looking at a gun that's on the seat. I said, "I think Lou thinking about killing himself right now." Y'all let me know what y'all think about that down in the comment section. And so then this episode ends with Rock showing up at Juliana's house. And Juliana is scared shitless. And that's funny because her cousin Joaquin had told her to stop being worried about who Rock's supplier is. And she need to be worried about if Rock likes her or not. And Rock told her, "No matter how much you get paid, you still that mousy ass broad who used to get knocked around by her man and needed me to save her." I said, "See, Juliana got too damn big for herself." So basically, Rock said she's coming to correct an error or mistake that she made, and she won't make that mistake again. And Juliana's like, "My cousin will have your head." And Rock said, "Joaquin knows I'm here." And she said, "So I have money." And she tried to walk away from Rock, and Rock shot her in the kneecap or whatever, and she fell to the floor by the couch. And then Rock just finished her off. She shot her one breast, two breasts, and then the middle of her head. And she told Juliana before she killed her, "This ish between us is way bigger than dollars and cents. It's about you knowing that I win every day and nobody beats me." But then she did say, "I do lose sometimes, but I learn from my mistakes, Juliana. And then I come back and I correct it. And what this right here is, it's a correction." I said, "Whoa." And Juliana was yelling, "No." And that's when Rock hit her with the 3 shots. Pop, pop, pop. So, but y'all all know what this is about. This is about stopping Kanan and Ronnie because Juliana was their supplier. So she's kind of like putting them out of business. So I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen next week. So this is how this episode ended. These Raising Kanan shows are always on point, always good, and I think y'all would all agree with me. So let me know what y'all thought about this episode, and I will see you all in the next video. It's your girl Barbie J saying peace.